That's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's the flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened?
America is football. Football
is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
For the moment in time, I don't give a damn.
Oh
my God!
No!
You loved it. 30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30 to 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. Tonight, we are going to be going through a list of games that have been released to us. Of course, the NFL is releasing the entire NFL schedule tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly at what time that's going to happen, but the games have slowly, one by one, leaked, and already plenty to talk about when you consider these are the first games that have been announced this offseason. I got to say, I just interviewed a Ravens fan. If you guys haven't checked that interview out, definitely check it out. He was from Australia. It was a really great opportunity to talk to somebody that's really not from America and get their perspective on what it's like watching football. How did they become a fan? All of that. But while we were talking in the interview, I specifically told him week 1 is going to be Ravens Chiefs. You can count it. Which, by the way, I'm not like giving myself a huge pat on the back. Most people thought that was the option when you looked at their schedule. But that game gets announced. The Jets on Monday Night Football, week 1, right? And you guys know Greeny from ESPN. He literally had a full-on meltdown when he found out that the Jets were going to be going to San Francisco to play one of the best defensive lines only 1 year after getting Buffalo week 1 on Monday night. And we all know what happened 4 plays later. So he almost had a meltdown when he was, doing live TV because he found out on live television. He's like, this is exactly what I didn't want to happen. We do have some people in the chat here. We got Nash Huffman coming in, said, who do the Bills play? I will give you those games in just a second. We're going to go through, and Nash with the new profile picture, love it. And Bill, totally understand. Let us know what happens here. Nick says, evening. What's up, Nick? And Liam, can we please trade Justin Fields away? I mean, look, why do you got to get rid of the guy so soon? You still got Russell Wilson. You still got, that competition. I think it's, Russell Wilson hasn't played a full season in quite a bit. And I think his over-under on starts is at like 12 games. So that should tell you a lot. We did just get another leak that the Denver Broncos are playing the Jets week 4, Denver on the road in week 4 versus the Jets. The New York Jets fan form is leaking several games, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But one of them has just been released that it's the Denver Broncos week 4. Given the source of this update, it's rather less than reliable, though it appears they've leaked correctly in past years. And I do want to make this point. The people that I get my leaks from, when the real schedule comes out, I compare side by side. And for the past 2 years, I haven't even seen one game be wrong. So they are getting leaked. Normally, it's getting leaked from individual organizations, especially the team's ran website. They'll tell them, they'll give them, let's say, a handful of games that they can leak. I'm not really sure how that works, but normally, if you go to ESPN and these big, huge kind of overall encompassing, you don't get those small town leaks that you get when you're in the culture. So if you're wondering about your team, go on the website, check the Reddit threads, make sure that the person's reliable. And I'm going to give you the games that I got for right now. So Broncos at home. And now, why is this such a big deal? I'm going to tell you why. Because Denver Broncos have completely turned a page and drafted Bo Nix as the new franchise quarterback. They took Russell Wilson in a $240 million contract, and they shipped his ass out of town to the Steel City. And when they asked Sean Payton if that decision was hard, given how much money it was, like a cold-blooded killer, he said no. Next question. So Sean gets his guy, and now Russell Wilson's with the Steelers, potentially in a better area for him to succeed. Now, because Mike Tomlin, Pete Carroll, defensive guys, all of that, we get it. I've been saying that I believe week 1, the Denver Broncos will be home playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Russell Wilson returns to Denver and takes on the guy that took his job from him. And, it's literally like Sean Payton's guy. It's literally like you get into a divorce and then you have to come back to the house and meet your wife's new husband. It's an absolute nightmare. I'm excited for the game personally. I think Denver's going to be all right. I think Bo Nix is going to be, I've seen Russell Wilson for the last 2 years, so there's really nothing to his game that frightens me. I know that he's going to be in the game at the fourth quarter. I understand Pittsburgh might have a better team all around, but Denver does have a pretty good home field advantage. Given that this is the home opener, I'm expecting it to be turned up all the way to 10. And I do think this is going to be a close game in the fourth quarter, and hopefully Denver wins that. But if they don't, now we know that they play Nathaniel Hackett, and it's just, if you've seen the movie The Butterfly Effect, you understand how weird this is. Like, Denver could lose to Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers week 4 and Russell Wilson week 1. This could be the darkest first quarter of the season if Denver doesn't come off hot and start winning football games. If you remember correctly, Nathaniel Hackett was an absolute nightmare. We got Nathaniel Hackett so we could get Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers stayed in Green Bay, so we got Russell Wilson. And now we're going to play Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator with Aaron Rodgers, the guy that he wanted all along. And that's the only reason we got into the situation. And you know what? As much as you might say, well, if you could just change that, you could change all of this. But if all of this doesn't happen, we don't get Sean Payton. So it depends on how high you are on Sean Payton. When it comes to me, I think that Sean Payton is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think that Russell Wilson is not capable of doing what Sean wants his quarterback to do. He needs high IQ, quick decision-making, get the ball out of your hands. Russ likes to hold the ball very long, look for the deep moon ball shot, and take too many sacks. So I still believe in Sean Payton, but if you don't, and I know that Broncos country is divided on Sean Payton and whether he's a great coach or not, I could understand how you may feel about all this. So this is going to be interesting to see, because really the first quarter of this season, and like I said, I can't confirm that the Steelers and Broncos are playing week 1, but I can confirm that the Broncos said that it's not believed that they're playing an AFC West opponent. So you take off the Chargers, Raiders, and Chiefs, and then on the Pittsburgh Steelers website, they leaked that their week 1 game is on the road, and the Broncos are one of their home or away opponents, rather. But also keep in mind that if Russell Wilson goes out there and he sucks, he might be on the bench by week 3, week 4. Justin Fields is sitting on the bench. He's ready to go. So if you're the NFL and you're trying to squeeze the most juice out of this game, you really got to ensure that Russell Wilson's playing in the game to make it dramatic. And that's why I think they would push it to the top of the schedule. Going into some of the comments real quick, Nash said, I think I'm most excited to see the GOAT announce a game. Oh my gosh, yes. seeing Tom Brady announce a football game, that's going to be great. Nick said, y'all think Rashee Rice plays a game this year? I don't know. I think there's a good chance that he does. I know all the stuff that happened, but we'll see. Really don't know and don't want to speculate because I haven't heard anything about the jaw incident and hitting somebody. Was it somebody that was with Rashee Rice? Was it Rashee Rice? Bill said, my guys are going to Germany to play the Panthers this year. I think the Giants, Brandon London, doing that segment from Germany during the draft was a dead giveaway. Yeah, and you probably put that together by following the Giants' local media team. And then Nash says the Super Bowl is the first game he comes back in. Nick said Nathaniel Hackett is literally the devil to Broncos country. Yikes. I cannot believe they gave Aaron Rodgers a Monday night game against Leonard Floyd, who ended his season in just 4 snaps last season. And then Nick said, conspiracy, the NFL is trying to rid themselves of Aaron Rodgers. All right, and Knicks win by 30 points, so you get a blowout tonight. Also, one of the things to keep in mind about the Denver Broncos and all this is that their over-under is actually at around 7 games. So it's not going to take much for them to overachieve, but I do expect the Chargers to be good, right? I expect them to come out swinging. And let's get into some of the other teams that are being leaked. We'll do NFL leaks. And I believe, here we go. So we can track it live right now. All right, so Ravens at Chiefs, as I said in the beginning, is going to be on Thursday night. And the Packers are playing the Eagles in Brazil on Friday night. Now, I think you guys might remember, if you weren't here a couple months ago, I did say that I liked that the NFL was in Brazil, but I didn't like it as the season opener. So now that that's clear that Packers-Eagles are playing on Friday night, Ravens-Chief is the opener, I love it. All right, Steelers at Falcons. This is a rumor. This has not been announced. I don't think that this is going to, the other two are confirmed. Okay. So I have my own rumor where I think it's Steelers Broncos, but maybe it is Steelers Falcons. This is per Zach Klein. And Zach Klein said on X, multiple sources around the league tell me the Falcons will open up the NFL season at home against the Steelers, and former head coach and current Steelers OC Arthur Smith. So you're still getting that revenge game, but you're just getting it with Arthur Smith rather than the player Russell Wilson. So that's one of the games that might go a different way than what I'm thinking, but we'll just have to wait and see. Then you got Tom Brady's first game in the broadcast booth for Fox will be the Cowboys at Browns. 4:25 p.m. I got to say, guys, I don't know if it's because it's going to take a little more getting used to. Deshaun Watson's been a Brown for 2 years, and I feel like it's still hit or miss, whether you're going to see him or not. I think he's ready to go week 1. I think he's going to start. But couldn't they have done better? Cowboys, Browns, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be a bad game. I'm just saying it doesn't scream Tom Brady's first broadcast. So let's see the Dallas Cowboys opponents, and let's see who they should have gone with. So the Dallas Cowboys are playing home games against, of course, Washington Commanders, Giants, Eagles, and then other NFC opponents include the Saints, Tampa Bay Bucks, Detroit Lions. What about Cowboys, Tampa Bay Bucks? Wasn't that actually Tom Brady's last game as a Tampa Bay Buck? Was in the playoffs against Dallas? That would make sense. It's like the circle of life. I would probably go with that one. There's also games against the Ravens, Bengals, and Texans. Those all would be amazing, to be honest. The Cowboys are playing on the road against the 49ers. That could be good. The Steelers, even the Steelers, I think would be cool. The Panthers and Falcons don't really care. Maybe you could make Atlanta exciting if you had to, but That's what I would have done. Let me know in the comments what you guys would have rather seen instead of the Dallas Browns game that were being delivered by Tom Brady in the broadcast booth. Super excited for Tom Brady. The Jets at 49ers is going to be Monday Night Football in Aaron Rodgers' return from his Achilles. And also the expectation for the New York Jets this year is the Super Bowl. When you look at the team that the Jets had last season and the team that they have now, they are much better. And the expectations were Super Bowl last year. So, but it's much more realistic this year. You can make a real argument that the Jets could be a Super Bowl favorite, but at least you got to agree that the expectations are that they win the Super Bowl. Now, if you are not on board with that, it might be because Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for 300 yards in over 400 days, right? I think it was 500 days I was hearing this. Let me rewind this real quick. Okay, I can't find it right now, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Let me see if I can see it in the comments really quick. Okay, whatever it was a game that happened in the 2021 season. So obviously, it's kind of an inflated stat because Aaron Rodgers didn't play last year. And then the year before, it wasn't a great year. It wasn't like that's what we were used to seeing from Aaron Rodgers when they lost to Detroit week 18. Kind of a win and get in situation. So with all that said, it's like we still feel like Aaron Rodgers has it in him because he's Aaron Rodgers. Like he's always kind of been that guy. But it's worth noting that it's been a long time since we've seen Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers. And I could see how if you are just kind of a doubtful person, right? You might not be as bullish on the Jets this year, but they have a very good team right now. I'm going to show you really quick their draft additions because honestly, the Jets are so much better. Okay, they got the best tackle out of Alamawa Fashunu, right? The guy at Penn State. That's it. That's a huge addition up front. Right? He's going to be starting week 1. Malachi Corley, another wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. And they also brought in, not Keelan Allen, Mike Williams, right? So now Mike Williams on the other side. And Mike Williams, who knows how much he'll actually play. He deals with injuries a lot. But they bring in, a guy like this out of Western Kentucky at 5'11", 215 pounds. So they're bringing in more options. Then at running back, you have Breece Hall. And Breece Hall, arguably the third best running back in the NFL. You could go as high as 1 or 2 without being considered crazy. He kind of started rolling back in to the groove last season after dealing with an injury that actually happened against the Broncos the year before. I expect him to have a really big year. But then you bring in the guy, Braylon Allen, a running back out of Wisconsin who was considered the 7th best, 6th best running back in this year's draft. And he is just falling down the board. Not really falling. I guess he was projected to go in the 4th round. But the Jets used their compensatory pick from the Ravens, which was a trade that happened earlier to be able to get Braylon Allen. So now you get this 1-2 punch. Jordan Travis, my favorite draft pick out of the whole entire draft. Somebody that is going to do very well. I think he was the quarterback where if you didn't have those top 6 picks in the draft, this was my next tier. I would just hold off for Jordan Travis. And the Jets really have had every position filled except a quarterback to learn behind Aaron Rodgers. And now they have that with Jordan Travis. Isaiah Davis, they get another running back. Quantez Stiggers, cornerback. Jalen Key. So I expect the Jets to be really good. And let me just type in their offseason additions, because I know they made some moves in free agency. They got Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, Mike Williams, as we already said, Hassan Reddick, Javon Kinlaw, Tyrod Taylor. That's is that an improvement over Zach Wilson? You guys tell me. I think it is. John Simpson, Chuck Clark. This is a better team right off the bat. But how fast is it going to work? And the reason last year we said that it's going to work and it's going to work right away is because Aaron Rodgers had the continuity from working with Nathaniel Hackett in Green Bay. So we automatically just assumed that it was going to work. I got to say, it probably is going to work in the Jets' favor that the noise has kind of come down a little bit. The hype was up here, and there's nothing more deflating than being out for the whole year after 4 plays. Okay. So it's going to be hard to get them to go back up. And I think that might actually help out the Jets. They can just quietly kind of do their thing. Saleh was already public about Hard Knocks and all this stuff kind of being a distraction, and how it was a very loud offseason. And I think he said something like, we're enjoying a quiet offseason, right? So it was very difficult for the Jets last year. And I think it's funny. You got a better team, more likely maybe to go to the Super Bowl, but it's quieter, right? I just feel like that's kind of a recipe for success. And Nick said they got to get Brady Belichick in the booth next time the Pats and Bucks play. And Nick said Manning Brady in the booth on a Broncos Patriots game. Oh my gosh. I'm going to feel old, I think, in that moment, right? That it was always Brady and Manning my whole life. And it's like, now there they are in the booth. And, that's like my father's version of Troy Aikman and Steve Young or, whoever. But now we're the people, it's definitely a shift. It's definitely a shift. And it probably happens every 30 years. Bill said Tyrod is better than Zach if and only if he can stop running himself into injuries. Ask me how I know. Of course, a Giants fan is how he knows. But yeah, you got 2 quarterbacks that you really want to not get injured, right? And they're both, I don't want to say prone to injury, but Rodgers is 41 years old. Let me make sure. I don't want to. Aaron Rodgers age. I think he is 40. Yeah, he's 40. Okay. But he'll turn 41 during the season. And it's funny, for somebody that considered retirement so many times, here he is at, 41, still going to be playing football. So, okay, Jets 49ers, we beat that to death. Dolphins at Bills on Thursday night. This is the first Amazon game, and this is officially announced. Love this game. And of course, we know that Thursday Night Football is going to be incredible for the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden it's going to be I was going to say Bears Commanders, but you know what? Bears Commanders doesn't sound bad at all right about now. Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels, number 1 versus number 2 overall. I don't even know what a bad game would be. We're at that point in the offseason where every team has some sort of excitement around it. Maybe the Browns, you could say, is the team that's not, but even them, there's plenty talent there. They're a playoff team. Like, put in the comments the team that has just the least care in the world. Like, you could not care if they were on TV. You're not interested. You don't want to see it. Put that into the comments. We got Samo Salamo, Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady is going to be in the broadcast booth and announcing the Dallas Cowboys Browns game, and that's going to be his first game as a announcer. So they're just saying it'd be cool if they got Peyton Manning to join him up there, and I think that's going to happen. All right, now let's see if there's any other leaks here. Let me know what game you guys are looking forward to the most. But yes, this is the games. I wonder if it's going to be leaked at midnight. I'm clicking on it from NFL.com right now. Here it is, 8 p.m. Okay. So we're going to be going live for that release as well. There was some other pretty big NFL news. So the Jags in the city of Jacksonville agreed to spend $1.4 billion on the Stadium of the Future. So keep in mind, the Jags have been a team that has been, considered the leading or the front runner team to go to London if London were to create a football team. But this tells me that the Jaguars are going to be staying in Jacksonville. And with Trevor Lawrence, it just seems like the Trevor Lawrence might be one of those guys that does for Jacksonville what Peyton did for the Colts. And I know that they already had Mike Brunell. And they went to an AFC championship, and they've had success in the past, even with Blake Bortles in 2017. But it was possible that without this, the Jags were going to be one of those teams. And when I say this, I mean having Trevor Lawrence. Like, without that kind of a player, maybe they wouldn't be selling out stadiums because there would be no hype. But the Jags, winning a playoff game against the Chargers at home really got the team, the city, back involved with that team. So this is a proposal that calls each side to contribute $625 million to the the $1.25 billion project. Jacksonville, which won't levy any new taxes to pay for the rebuild, would chip in another $150 million to get Everbank Stadium ready for construction in 2026. The plan was presented at a city council meeting Tuesday. Council members are expected to vote in on it late June, with a simple majority of the 19 members needed to pass. It would then advance to the NFL owners meeting in October, where 24 of the 32 voters would be needed for final approval. I think that's so stupid. Like, I don't understand why NFL owners need to give a city permission to build a stadium in their own city. Like, it's just weird that, crossing those streams is kind of weird to me. I understand the part where you got to ask the city, not really sure why it matters to owners what stadium they're playing in. So construction would begin following the 2025 season. The Jags would play in front of a reduced capacity in 2026 and host games in either Gainesville or Orlando. So we're not talking about a stadium moving. I've been to this stadium more than any stadium in the NFL, living in Jacksonville. This stadium has always been way too big for the city. And honestly, the stadium, my whole childhood, is a great analogy for Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the biggest city in the United States area-wise, not population. But it's so far. It's about 40 minutes to drive anywhere, 30 minutes to drive anywhere. It's a very, very big city. It's kind of like the stadium, right? My whole life, nobody really wanted to go to games. They were always blacked out on TV. You could buy them for stupid cheap. But the stadium, when you get to it, you're like, this place is huge. Like, why would they build such a big stadium? So it's kind of a funny little, analogy for the city. But now with Trevor Lawrence and this new stadium renovation, maybe Jacksonville will actually be that team that has the dopest stadium. Like, they used to have swimming pools in the Bud Light zones. And you could just be out in the pool drinking a beer, watching football. I mean, I can't imagine what they're going to do with the $1.2 billion. I mean, that's going to be insane. It's going to be a pool wrapping around the whole stadium, I bet. The proposal includes a 30-year lease as well as agreements that address the franchise's future in London in a non-relocation clause. So this is what we were talking about. Under the new lease, the Jaguars would play all preseason and postseason games in Jacksonville and would continue to play one game per year in London, likely at Wembley Stadium. The Jags could play one additional home game every 4 years overseas, but only if the NFL dictates, and only during seasons in which the Jaguars have 9 home games. Because with the 18-game schedule, now you flip-flop 8 and 9, because it's not an even number. The sides expect the revamped stadium to lead to more high-profile events, such as U.S. soccer matches and concerts. Jaguars owner Shad Khan agreed to take on all construction cost overruns, assume day-to-day operations of the stadium, and take the majority of the game day expenses moving forward. So Shad Khan really throwing his wallet on the table to get this thing done, which I know he's a super rich man, but still, I mean, that could get expensive quick. The 63,000 seat open air stadium includes a translucent covering that the equivalent of wearing shades in the sun. Team president Mark Lamping said it's expected to lower outside temperature by 15 degrees. Wow. Did you guys get that? There's going to be a translucent covering that is going to be the equivalent of wearing shades in the sun that will decrease the lower outside temperature by 15 degrees. If you have never been in Florida heat, you don't understand. This is a big deal. I was just there week 2 for the Jags-Chiefs game last year, and I brought all my podcast stuff because I wanted to do the podcast out at the stadium. My equipment overheated before kickoff. Like, it gets that hot. So you're telling me it's going to knock it from 100 degrees to 85? Trust me, that 15 degrees is like the difference between, it's almost like mile high. It's a different kind of worn out. It's like, I'm just so hot. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I'm seeing stars. I'm seeing black. Like, that's a big deal. Because some teams want to keep it because it's actually a home field advantage, right? Like the Miami Dolphins, they built their bench so the Dolphin sideline is shaded. The opponent is not shaded, and it's like a 30-degree temperature difference. The stadium plan also includes 140% concourse space, 190 new points of sale, 16 new escalators, 12 new elevators, blah, blah, blah. Capacity could expand to 71,500 to accommodate the annual Florida-Georgia rivalry, which could easily fill out whatever number of seats they have. The city of Jacksonville still hopes to add substantial development to the surrounding area, which is expected to include a UF satellite campus that would bring in 10,000 graduate students. And if you guys haven't ever been to the stadium too, there's something called the Daly Center inside, and it's an auditorium where concerts are done. And so you're in the stadium. So like you're basically just in the auditorium or the concert area. It's an outdoor venue, but it's all indoor feeling. It's really interesting. I've seen a couple concerts there. You're walking to grab a beer, you're walking to grab something, or go to the bathroom, and you are on the floor level of the field, and you can see it right there. Kind of like how Fenway Park in Boston has the bar, the green, I forget what it is called, but it's that same kind of feeling, which is really cool. So the city wants to finance its portion by moving $600 million from a capital improvement plan and using revenue from an existing half-penny sales. Who cares? They're, rich people shit. They're going to move money around. So 15 degrees makes it 85 degrees in Jacksonville. I remember the laptop crashing. Bill was there when the laptop crashed. Nick said if they're building new stuff, they should build a stadium in San Diego so the Chargers cannot be homeless. The Chargers it's so funny. That stadium is the most badass in the NFL, and it constantly fills up with other people's fans. But keep in mind, if you had your favorite football team was in a tourist destination, people would be like, I want to go to a Broncos game. Which one do I want to go to? The Broncos in Cleveland Browns or the Broncos playing the Chargers at SoFi Stadium, right? I mean, it's not even close. Although I told Bill we're going this year. We're going to a Broncos Chargers game. It's going to be awesome. Kirk Cousins. We were wondering how he was going to embrace the role after he got called out pretty much, or called himself out, or got called out by his agent after they drafted Michael Penix Jr. Nobody expected that. Sean Payton even said that scared him a little bit, thought, somebody might, not probably pick Bo Nix, but then Kirk Cousins or then the Atlanta Falcons pick Michael Penix, and it's like, holy shit, what is going on? Maybe there's a few more wild card picks to come, and then all of a sudden, the Atlanta Falcons, you get these messages coming out that Kirk Cousins was confused and upset about the Michael Penix Jr. addition. And then the Falcons become the first team ever to add a quarterback onto their roster that has, I believe, 4 Pro Bowl appearances and then draft a quarterback in the same draft, let alone in the first 10 picks of the draft. So, you get this a lot. You had it with Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. You had it with Brett Favre when Aaron Rodgers came on board. Like, this is not uncommon. But at the end of the day, it's like, Kirk, I felt like, get over it, dude. Like, okay, so they drafted a quarterback. They want to have a plan. Obviously, your contract is for 4 years, not 14. Like, it's not that hard to understand. But I think Kirk Cousins' thinking was like, well, if we're going to win a Super Bowl, why not invest in, Kyle Pitts, who's on the board, or something like that. So this is what we heard today about Kirk Cousins. So still, there's one question Kirk Cousins can't seem to fully dismiss. Would he have signed with the Falcons if he knew that they would have been taking quarterback in round 1 of the 2024 NFL draft? And Kirk Cousins said, I don't really deal in hypotheticals. He said this today. We could go down that path for a long time in a lot of ways, and it just doesn't do any of us any good. I'm excited for this opportunity. I think it's a real privilege to be a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm ready, and I'm trying to make good on the opportunity that they've given me with the way I work each day. As the 2 quarterbacks went to work for the start of this week's OTAs, both trying to make the best of the situation that neither of them asked for. Cousins and Penix often threw side by side on the team's practice field. That's not awkward, right? Oh my God. Cousins said he relished the competition with all the Falcon signal callers, including Tyler Heineke, who a lot of people really love. He's like the Gardner Minshew to these, Tyler Heineke fans. And he said we're working, basically working for each other. Cousins appeared on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, denying that there was any beef with the Falcons over the selection of Penix. And this is what I wanted to say. If there was no beef over the selection of Penix, then why did your agent say that? Was he sitting in your living room when he was picked? It's like, probably not, right? So what made him want to, I guess, do that? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he just felt like, no, like, it's my job to keep your value up here. And when they did that, they showed they didn't value. So I need to do something, but I'm doing it in your image. I'm not really sure what happened there. But Cousins also made sure that he, gave support to not just Michael Penix, but also Tyler Heineke. Cousins also is dealing with a torn Achilles tendon that he suffered last October. He's about 6 months into a 9-month rehab, but he said he'd hope to be ready even sooner than the target day of August. Falcons head coach Raheem Morris said that Cousins should be pretty close to a full go by training camp after testing his Achilles during Tuesday's non-contact session. Cousins said that he's feeling great. Cousins' drama doesn't end with his health, though. There remains the unsolved investigation into the Falcons tempering when Cousins signed his 4-year, $180 million contract with the Falcons fewer than 2 hours after the free agency window opened March 13th. And it makes sense. Like, if you open up free agency is now underway, right? And you 2 hours after that have a blockbuster trade like this, it's like, you guys got this all worked out in 2 hours. How long did it take the Jets and the Packers to reach an agreement on Aaron Rodgers? Like, something's a little fishy. Like, at least give it a couple days, right? If you don't want to get caught. In his introductory press conference back in March, Cousins referenced talking with the Falcons medical staff, which led to tampering investigation. it was Cousins that basically, opened his mouth about this. Although he deferred to the league's ongoing review, Cousins suggested that his comments were much ado about nothing. So the league is still working their way through it. This is what Cousins said. So I'll let that play its course before I say anything out of turn. If I said anything at the press conference, it was because it was so innocent. So Kirk Cousins trying to, backstep a little bit from what he said initially late. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. So I saw this news and I thought to myself, oh my God, is this the way for Bills Mafia to get back at the Chiefs? Of course, Patrick Mahomes has had Josh Allen's number. Josh Allen has all the talent in the world. Every time he's in the playoffs, he gives you some of the best football games you've ever seen in your life, including last year's 55-yard touchdown run. The guy's just an absolute monster, but they can't get past the Chiefs. And last year really felt like the year the Bills could have done it. The Chiefs kind of had a really good defense, but not very good offensively. A lot of people took the Bills to win that game, and they lost, of course. The Chiefs go on to win the Super Bowl. So then the draft starts, all right? And the Bills know that the Chiefs need a wide receiver. And they call the Bills, who also need a wide receiver, to ask if they can swap picks for, a day three stuff. And the Bills say yes. And then all of a sudden, Bills Mafia is like, why the hell would we do business with the Chiefs? Matter of fact, if the Bills knew who the Chiefs were targeting, they should have drafted that player. So the Chiefs can't have him. And then we see this today. Bills sign ex-receiver, Chiefs receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling to a 1-year contract. So Buffalo adds another weapon to their wide receiver room. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is expected to sign a deal worth up to $4.5 million, reported by Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport this morning. And then Buffalo later announced the news themselves. So after 4 seasons with the Packers, MVS helped the Chiefs win back-to-back Super Bowl titles. He's a speedy wideout, but has struggled with consistency and drops his last 2 years in Kansas City. But he did come up clutch down the stretch, including catching a touchdown in the Super Bowl over the 49ers. So Valdez brings a needed speed to a Bills receiver corps that lost Gabe Davis to Jacksonville, lost Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans, who have the best wide receiver room in the country, in my opinion. His ability to stretch the field will help open things up underneath for Josh Allen. After trading Diggs, they drafted Keon Coleman out of Florida State, who immediately became the top talent in the crew. Valdes-Scantling adds a swift veteran to the equation alongside Khalil Shakur, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins. And Matt, honestly, this is not very good, but this is a good wide receiver group. And this is the way I would personally do it if I ran a team. I would get a bunch of guys that are good, and I would just have them compete and then be able to see, okay, who's the best? Khalil Shakur, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool, and KJ Hamler are all, receivers that you want on your team. Maybe not Chase Claypool, but KJ Hamler, ridiculous speed, drafted in the 3rd round, I believe, out of Penn State, and dealt with injuries. But when he's on the field, he is that guy that can really stretch the field, probably the fastest guy in the team. And you bring in, with his injuries, I'm saying that these all are players that kind of were maybe feeling unappreciated with their last team. I thought when I watched the Raiders games, Mac Hollins looked like the best receiver on the team, and they had Devontae Adams, but it was Mac Hollins who was benefiting from them double covering Devontae Adams. There's enough receivers here for the Bills to put something on the field. And like I said, they helped the Chiefs last season during their latest title run, and now Marvin Valdes-Scantling now flip sides, and I'm wondering if they're going to be able to get some information out of him. right? What kind of offense do they run? What would the Chiefs do in this situation? And it almost feels like when you have any kind of a dynasty, there's just so much information if you're a part of a back-to-back Super Bowl run that you have to offer, even if it's small things like this is what they're going to do. They're going to maybe, they're going to install their offense on Tuesday, little things like that. In Jacksonville, my brother played at Nice High School. That's where Tim Tebow played. And in Jacksonville, Nice versus Bartram Trail. Bartram Trail is where Nathan Peterman went to high school. But Nice versus Bartram is a very big rivalry. High school football is really big in this part of Florida. And I remember we ended up moving, and then the coaches from Nice were offering like a lot of money for Nice's playbook. This kind of stuff happens on every level. So I'm not sure, right? Andy Reid's the kind of guy to change everything, and then they can change their verbiage. I'm sure there are going to be certain things that Valdes-Scantling won't know, but maybe adding him isn't going to hurt their chances of finally getting past the Chiefs. I like this pickup for the Bills. I think it makes sense. Nick said the table jumping faces the Bills coaching staff CTE. Bill said the Bills given the fastest mother effort ever at the combine to the Chiefs was mind-blowing. Yeah, I can't believe they did that. And Nick said, oh shit, I forgot KJ was on the Bills. We drafted him. Yeah, I did as well. So here we go with the first game. Real quick, I wanted to mention this because Trey Hendrickson was dealing with some issues within the Bengals, and then he asked for a trade. And then you saw the Bengals make some draft selections that were, I guess, an insurance policy if Trey Hendrickson was to go somewhere else. But this is what he said, because he did go and attend the voluntary offseason workouts where they got to talk to him. And this is what he said. This is where separating business and the team is difficult. At what point am I contradicting what I want? Hendrickson told Hobson of the team's website. Long-term winning games, all those things are what I want to do here in Cincinnati, and removing myself from the team doesn't help them. So he's basically in a predicament where he cares so much, but he doesn't want to get in his own way because he did kind of blossom these last 3 years. He was a late bloomer, and now he's like, I'm worth more money than I'm being paid, but I also care too much to let my team down and turn my back on them. So he doesn't really know what to do. Hendrickson's coming off a career high 17.5 sacks. No other Bengal had more than 6 last season, so he's carrying the whole load. The stats mean I've had good and actually, I was just going to say this. I was going to correct myself because they asked him about this, and he said sacks mean I have a good team around. This is true for everybody. Von Miller benefited from DeMarcus Ware, right? And then there was Elvis Dumervil benefiting from, there's always this yin yang. Jared Verse, the number 1 edge in some people's mock, benefited from Brendan Fisk on the other side, who are both sticking together for the Rams. So, oh my God, if you're worried about the Aaron Donald, sized hole being gone, Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse this is going to be a good defensive line next year. And they're going to get after the quarterback. So Hendrickson is saying also here that, when you have one player that is so dynamic on the other side that they can't double one person, the other person eats. If they double Chase Young and Nick Bosa gets 5 sacks, it's not because, Nick Bosa is 5 sacks better. And you get what I'm saying. I don't need to break it down anymore. But Hendrickson said that he had a good team surrounding him. That means I've had teammates who have given me the opportunity for individual achievements. I can't rush the passer on my own. I can't scheme a pass coverage like defensive coordinator Lou can. That is freeing me up on 3rd and 8 for a strict sack. I can't do it without head coach Zach Taylor giving us a 14-point lead when sacks are more attainable, of course, because they're playing from behind. They can't run the football. That's football, not just defense, not just a defensive line. It's a team. And it's true. It's like pressure leads to interceptions, but also tight coverage downfield leads to sacks. It all works together. The 29-year-old set to make $14.8 million in 2024 and $15.8 in 2025. But here's the problem. He has zero guaranteed dollars left on his pack. Last year, the Bengals gave him a pay boost in the form of a 1-year extension that included $8 million signing bonus and increased his 2023 deal by $5 million. So Hendrickson's $21 million annual average ranks 11th among edge rushers. So he's already kind of a top 10 per, when you just look at the salary. He just wants a pay bump more in line with his production and worth. So Hendrickson added that he holds no animosity towards the front office. They're transparent and respectful. In an ideal world, Hendrickson would get a raise to remain in Cincy and chase a Lombardi trophy. Lacking a have your cake and eat it too option, he's plowing forward as a leader to give himself a shot at the on-field goal. So this is a different approach, and honestly, I appreciate this approach, right? I want to be paid for the leader that I am, so I will be the leader that I am, so you will pay me as such, right? There's this quote that I used to have in my high school football locker room because I played in a very small town school. They didn't even have their own home field. Everything was an away game. Everything was hand-me-downs. Had to drive to, a public park just to practice. Just real small. And inside the weight room, it said, a man shows who he is by what he does with what he has. And then another one said, treat a man as he is, and he will remain as he is. Treat a man as what he can become, and he'll become it. So the Bengals aren't really treating him, doing the second part of that equation. So he says, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. And I'm going to show you, almost backwards. I'm going to become it, and then you'll treat me for what I've become. So he's really doing his part to be paid the way he wants to. And he said his mindset's to win a Super Bowl. And I think we got the quarterback and pieces to do it. I want to be here for a long time. I want to win football games, and I want to bring a Super Bowl to Cincinnati. And honestly, the Cincinnati is one of those teams that with Joe Burrow, if he can stay healthy, they're going to be good for a long time. And you want to think, just like Travis Kelce, when they asked him, why aren't you the highest paid tight end? Right. And he was like, I'm not going to lie. When I see some of these tight ends get their bag, I'm like, ooh, that looks nice. But then I look at my hands and I see these Super Bowl rings. And, it sounds like Trey Hendrickson is a person that really wants to win Super Bowls, not just, when you could go to the Panthers and not even make the playoffs and get all that money. But I think he understands that he does value both of those. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. As far as the Cowboys Browns game, like I said earlier, Brady is set to call it. He signed a monster deal with Fox, 10 years, $375 million back in May of 2022, prior to retiring from playing. So he is going to start his Fox announcing gig this fall, and everything appears full steam ahead with that plan. Fox Sports announced that Week 1 will be back to an exclusive doubleheader window. It's the first time Fox will feature a Cowboys game in a prime Week 1 Sunday slot in 5 years. The Browns later confirmed their involvement in the game on social media, fresh off his X-rated roast last weekend, which, by the way, was the greatest roast I have ever seen. I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, man, this roast is probably one of the best roasts I ever seen. And then Anchorman, I'm blanking on his name, Burgundy, comes out from Anchorman, and that settled it. I was like, that is it. This is the best thing I've ever seen. And I also watched Kill Tony on YouTube as well, and he was there. I mean, it was just amazing. I might watch it again. So anyway, this is going to be interesting to see. I think Tom Brady, obviously, he's one of the smarter QBs that have been around for a while. Is he just going to kind of click right away? I think he has the personality for it. I think it might feel a little weird for us, just because it's not like we're not used to an ex-player coming in and doing really great. But I thought Tony Romo was really good at it immediately, but Tony Romo is not Tom Brady. So I think there might be part that's just hard. It's kind of like, certain actors can only play one type of role, because if they do too well at it, it's like kind of like Peter Parker, right? It was like every movie he was in, people were like, what is Spider-Man doing, in this movie? And Tom Brady is Tom Brady. So it's like, it's going to take a little bit getting used to, but it'll be interesting. So the full schedule is going to be released tomorrow at 8 p.m. and exclusive. Michael Strahan announces that game. So he did it on Twitter on May 13th in 2024 or X. And Nick said it's going to be Brady and Bradshaw in the booth together. That is crazy. That is what, 12 Super Bowls, 11. Commanders release. These are the news roundups going around the league today. So, of course, a bunch of teams paid their players that they just drafted. Actually, the Broncos were the first quarterback to reach an agreement with Bo Nix. Isaiah Adams and Max Milton, cornerback and offensive line from the Cardinals, both signed their stuff today. Jermaine Burton signed. Eric All signed for the Bengals. I could go down this whole list, but you get the idea. The people that were just drafted have worked out contracts, and they're going to continue to be the teams in contracts for the next couple of weeks. And let's look at projected starters. Okay, projected starters for the 2024 NFL season. Okay, so for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. At running back, Derrick Henry. Wide receiver, Zay Flowers. Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely. Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. Andrew Voorhees at left guard. Tyler Linderbaum at center. Ben Cleveland at right guard. And Rosengarten at right tackle. If you haven't seen that interview, we go over the offensive line in it with that fan from Australia. So that, to me, having Derrick Henry in this is just insane, right? This looks like a team that could go to the Super Bowl. Then with the Bengals, you got Joe Burrow, Zach Moss, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Jermaine Burton, who they just drafted. Ideally, he's going to be that guy that, what does it say? Logan Wilson linebacker. Oh, I'm thinking of Peyton Wilson, the guy that was drafted to the Steelers. Insane value the Steelers got. Drew Sample is going to be their tight end. Orlando Brown Jr., Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Trent Brown are going to be the offensive linemen. Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Njoku. This is a pretty solid. I'm not going to do the offensive line anymore. I'm just going to go through, some of these all-stars. Then you got Myles Garrett, Shelby Harris, Zadarius Smith, Jordan Hicks, Denzel Ward, and Greg Newsome. Honestly, the Browns starting quarterback, running back, and top 3 tackles are coming off major injuries. So that's something to monitor, especially at tackle. But all these players are supposed to be ready for the season when it starts. Deshaun Watson's absence from OTAs could allow Jameis Winston to learn the offense faster. Tyler Huntley is also on board for depth, who backed up Lamar Jackson for a long time. And that's another divisional rival. Maybe he has some insight that can help the Browns out. Let's look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is interesting. Projected starters is not Russell Wilson. It actually is Justin Fields. So we'll go through it. Justin Fields, Jaylen Warren, George Pickens, Roman Wilson, who they drafted out of Michigan, Calvin Austin, Pat Freiermuth, Troy Fontenot, who they drafted, and then we get into, I will do their offensive line because it's pretty insane. Okay, you got Broderick Jones, James Daniels, Zach Frazier, and Samalu and Fontenot, right? I think 3 of these players they drafted this year. And Justin Fields and Russell Wilson are similar players, and their weaknesses are pretty much the same. So he's saying he expects the Steelers to go with the younger, more explosive version if they're, bringing the kind of the same profile. So even if Wilson wins the week 1 job, Fields is my pick to play most games. The wide receiver room is among the worst in football. Van Jefferson was a letdown in LA and Atlanta, struggling to track the ball. He's not a lock to make the team. 3rd round pick Roman Wilson is the most likely option to be the second receiver. And Calvin Austin and Quez Watkins profile is a decent number 4 option. The Steelers did pass on the 5th-year option for Najee Harris at a pretty low price of only $6.8 million. That's a sign Jalen Warren could wind up with more snaps after a near even split last season. Troy Fontenot and Zach Frazier are day 1 starters. Even though the Steelers usually slow play their rookies, this group should be among the league's best at pulling on runs. And 3rd round rookie Peyton Wilson, one of the best picks in the draft, period. The fact that Peyton Wilson, somebody that I projected to go 31 or 30 overall, got sent all the way to the 3rd round because of injuries, which reminds me of TJ Watt in the fact that he was such a polarizing player, but it was injury concerns that had him picked at around 31, where I thought Peyton Wilson would fall to. Instead, he falls all the way to the 3rd round. I think he's going to be in and effective very fast. And they also have Patrick Queen. There's no more Roquan Smith, so Queen could decline, especially with the Steelers swinging and missing so often at this position. But the Steelers also seem to have future defensive stars simmering. Both Keanu Benton and Joey Porter Jr., who they drafted last year, are candidates to make a leap this season. So those are the projected starters just going through the AFC North, okay? And I got to say, I think the Ravens are the best team. The Ravens, when you just look at the roster top to bottom, it's got to be the Ravens. And then I would probably lean towards the Browns just because, one of them has Deshaun Watson. But I really think this is a kind of year where the Steelers are going to, I think the Steelers could be much better than people are expecting, okay? So that was the AFC North. Let's take a look at the AFC East. And then I'll give you let me rank them 1 through 4. So I'm going to go number 1, Ravens. I'm going to go with the Bengals number 2. I do think the Steelers have a better team, but Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. So I'll die on that hill. And then I'll go Steelers, and I'll finish with the Browns. And I know the Steelers don't have a great wide receiver room on paper, but I think that there's plenty. There's plenty opportunity for them to kind of rise to the occasion, right? I think Logan Wilson out of Roman Wilson out of Michigan. I think he's going to be effective. They still have George Pickens, and plus, let's not fool ourselves. This is a team that is supposed to run the football, and that's what they're going to do. And they're going to play defense and run the football. It's the Steeler way. The AFC East, I'm going to give you the projected starters, and then I will rank them 1 through 4. So we'll start with the Bills. Josh Allen, James Cook at running back, Keon Coleman at wide receiver, Khalil Shakur at wide receiver, Curtis Samuel at wide receiver, Dalton Kincaid at tight end, Deion Dawson, David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Spencer Brown, O'Crias Torrance. Just doing offense here. Josh Allen called this offensive line the best of his time in Buffalo, and the entire starting group is back. General manager Brandon Beane drafted some late-round depth, but the Bills are counting on this group to be a major asset. The line is why I'm not sweating this offense's ability to produce. Allen makes up for the playmakers' lack of star power, and this group has an in-depth what it lacks in proven difference makers. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox will play in 2 tight end sets often. I was going to say that. They only give you 1 tight end, but they're both probably going to be on the field a lot. Giving the team optionality, Kincaid quietly had the 10th most receiving yards for a rookie tight end, and that has not really happened. Let's see. It was the 5th most since 2000. Really, Sam Laporta must have broke that record. I'm going to read this one more time. Kincaid quietly had the 10th most receiving yards for a rookie tight end in NFL history, and the 5th most since 2000. Wow. It is what it is. The Bills view Keon Coleman on the outside as an ex-receiver. This guy has a big personality. You can find that just by watching his introductory press conference. Many draft analysts saw him as a big option in the slot. Can he get open enough on the outside, though? One confusing aspect of the offense is that most of Buffalo's pass catchers, Khalil Shakur, Curtis Samuel, Kincaid, do their best work on the inside. Samuel somehow only turns 28 years old in August, and he does a lot of things well. He's missed 1 game or less in 4 of the last 5 seasons and profiles as an excellent player. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a reserve option based on his salary and skill set, but he does give Josh Allen a speed merchant on the outside. The Bills hope Von Miller can be a starter again, but even quality snaps as sub-package player would be a bonus, despite his guaranteed money, $8.5 million this year per over the cap. He's not a lock to make the team if he doesn't show progress in training camp. Miller's presence is part of a defensive line that is not as deep as it once was, although the Bills added 3rd and 5th round picks, Dwayne Carter and Javon Solomon, to the mix. Despite the veteran exodus this offseason, this is a strong starting 22. The expectation could be at safety, where the team is still waiting to see if Micah Hyde will retire. If so, Cole Bishop has a chance to start from the jump. No team with Josh Allen in this much continuity is rebuilding. It's still the best roster in the division and one of the best in the NFL. So, I mean, honestly, you look at the Buffalo Bills, and I agree. It's like, we can't just get tired of believing in the Bills because they keep losing in the playoffs. That's not how that works, right? One of these years, it's going to work. We didn't give up on Peyton Manning because Tom Brady kept kicking his ass, so I still think as long as Josh Allen is on this team, he can make up for the lack of star power. And I just think this is one of those teams where if everyone just does their job, this could be, this looks like a typical Patriots roster. You got Tom Brady, you got a running back like James Cook, who is not bad, but not necessarily a top 5 back in the league. You got your Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakur. That's your Amendola, Wes Walker. You had your Randy Moss, right, in friggin' Stephon Diggs. Now he's gone, but with Josh Allen, just like with Tom Brady, you know that he's going to be all right. I think this is going to be another good year for Buffalo. Sure, they might not win all their games, but definitely getting to double digits, and probably a little bit more. All right, going to the Miami Dolphins, who actually have a pretty insane roster, and they only give you 1 running back. Remember, they have Achane as well, who really, just popped onto the scene and did well last year. Tua Tagovailoa will be the quarterback. Raheem Mostert, who led the NFL in rushing touchdowns last season, will be at running back. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Odell Beckham Jr. That's ridiculous. And they just tagged Jalen Waddle. Jonnu Smith, Terron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, Austin Jackson. I was surprised the Dolphins didn't draft a wide receiver earlier or a guard at all, but their post-signing of Odell Beckham makes sense. He fits a role player to share snaps with Braxton Berrios, depending on the formation. Jonnu Smith could also play a 3rd receiving option kind role at tight end in timeshare with blocking tight end Durham Smythe. The Dolphins staff has done a nice job of coaching up an injury-plagued group, and that's another thing. Keep in mind that Jolene Phillips isn't going to be ready week 1. He's coming off a serious injury that didn't happen until, I think, week 15. 4th-round pick Jalen Wright adds to this excellent backfield. Jalen Wright was falling way down the board. I think it was NFLDraftBuzz.com had Jalen Wright as the 3rd best running back in this year's class, and he was one of the last running backs. He just kept falling and falling and falling, and I was like, why would the Dolphins do that? But it's just the Dolphins have Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, and Jalen Wright. This is an excellent backfield. And look, I think this is all about just keeping people fresh, right? If they're going to burn you with their speed, you need to be able to have multiple speedsters. You can't just have Tyreek Hill, right? Tyreek Hill runs down the field 50 yards, and he needs to run to the sideline and take a deep breath. You don't want to lose your whole identity while he's on the sideline. I think they're just setting this team up. They're track stars. They're gonna be fast. They're gonna get the ball out quick. Tua's gonna throw for over 4,000 yards, and they're gonna lose in the playoffs. Like, that's just what's gonna happen. These projections are for snaps over the course of the season. Bradley Chubb and Jaleel Phillips may not be ready, as I said earlier, which is partly why the signing of Shaq Barrett. And keep in mind, Shaq Barrett, very talented pass rusher. I think he still could be a big help to a team. Denver let him go, and he ended up signing a deal with Tampa. And then his first year with Tampa, he led the NFL in sacks. This guy is really good. He's got a Von Miller type play to him. You can tell he played under Von Miller. And they drafted Chop Robinson out of Penn State. So when they get Bradley Chubb and Jaleel Phillips back, I mean, honestly, if this team had Josh Allen, if this was, any of the top 5 quarterbacks, you would say this team could go to the Super Bowl. But how confident are you in Tua Tagovailoa, especially after seeing the performance that he had in the game against the Chiefs? I know it was freezing. It was so cold that people got amputated after the game. But still, Tua did not show up for that game, and neither did the play calling from Mike McDaniel. I mean, that was just very hard to watch. All right, now looking at the New England Patriots, who've kind of mixed things up a little bit. Drake May at quarterback, Ramondre Stevenson at running back, great running back, I'll say. Jalen Polk, KJ Osborne, and Kendrick Bourne are their wide receivers. Hunter Henry. Look, this is definitely a rebuild, and this is an offense in year 1 of an overhaul, not only partially constructed. Personnel chief Elliott Wolf has added a ton of new players to the mix, with a quarterback, wide receiver, and left tackle remaining wide open competitions. Jacoby Brissett is probably the slight favorite to start week 1. I'm going to say it's Drake May. Drake May is the heavy favorite to play most snaps at quarterback over the course of the regular season because of his overwhelming talent. No, you cannot draft a quarterback number 2 overall and not start him week 1. That's just not going to happen. The Patriots re-signed Mike Onwenu with the intention of sticking him at right tackle. But I mean, I look at this team and I go, yeah, this team has a lot of growing pains ahead of them. I don't think it's just going to work right away. This is not the Texans of last year, unless Drake May is just absolutely amazing. And, and we were wrong about him going 3, because if he's that good, he should have gone 1. The New York Jets. All right, guys, this team is absolutely insane. This is probably the best team in the NFL. And this is one of those teams that I'm going to start on defense. Hassan Reddick, Quinnen Williams, Javon Kinlaw, Jermaine Johnson, Quincy Williams, CJ Mosley, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Michael Carter II, Chuck Clark, and Tony Adams. A total nightmare. Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, Tyler Conklin, Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, and Morgan Moses. Don't underestimate the upgrade at backup quarterback to Tyrod Taylor, who played well for the Giants when he got on the field last season. Number 11 overall pick, Olu Fashanu is an overqualified swing tackle who will inevitably wind up playing snaps behind two veterans and one-year deals in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. The offensive line acquisitions made sense, but it's still concerning that only one starter was actually healthy on the Jets last year. Second-year center Joe Tippmann. Allen Lazard gets the edge as a wide receiver 3 here over third-round pick Malachi Corley because of Lazard's experience and familiarity with Aaron Rodgers, but the Jets will find a way to get Corley involved in opportunities to run after the catch. Perhaps the only position where the Jets look diminished is on the defensive line. The trade of John Franklin Myers exposes the team's depth. It's not a unit that could survive injury as well. That said, the top shelf defensive talent and continuity is awesome. Over the past 2 seasons, the Jets have finished 6th and 3rd in defensive DVOA under Robert Saleh. The Jets offseason made sense. While they are thinner than ideal on the defensive line, Joe Douglas addressed the biggest need for the ultimate all-in season. It's up to the coaches and Aaron Rodgers to make this work. And Bill said Olsen Brady would be great. That would be awesome. Real quick, before I just jump off that, one of the things that I was thinking was, man, Greg Olsen is one of my favorite. No, he's probably my favorite announcer. You have your announcers that you really love because they make you nostalgic. For me, it's Chris Collinsworth. It's Troy Aikman. It's Joe Buck. It's Michael Carosa. Something like that. He used to pair up with Chris Collinsworth. I mean, I love those voices, Tony Romo. But, man, what I loved about Greg Olsen is that he would call out the bullshit. How many times do we get an announcer that's just constantly, just whatever the NFL do, whatever the refs do, they're just constantly stroking them. Like, yeah, I didn't see it, but, these refs on the field, they got the right equipment to get it right, and they got this one right. And you can clearly see that they didn't get it right. Greg Olsen during the Super Bowl, when that BS pass interference that gave the Chiefs the win, he was like, I don't know. In a moment like this is a guy that's calling his first Super Bowl ever, and he's going to say this on national TV in the biggest televised event in the United States. Like, no, in a game like this, you'd like to see them keep that flag on the ground. Like, he called out the BS when everybody else would have gone along with it. So, yeah, I was thinking, man, I love Tom Brady, and I think it's cool that he's doing this, but Greg Olsen was amazing at this. Like, why not just pair them together? So I'm right there with you, Greg Olsen and Tom Brady. All the players from my childhood are gone except Aaron Rodgers, and that feels weird. Yep. Annie Agar actually put that Tua can't play in the cold in her funny video today. I'll check it out. I can't do Collinsworth. He hates the Giants. Oh, here's a guy. Yeah, and everything that happens, he's like, I've never seen a play like that. Never before. Oh my gosh. Just stop it. Just stop it. Like, it's so annoying. If he's on the TV, it's getting muted. Yeah, I know. It's really weird is when you see that his son sounds exactly like him. Like, exactly like him. But closing the AFC East, I'm going to say I think the Jets have the best team in this division, followed by the Bills, then the Dolphins, and then the Patriots. But I will say this, the gap between the Patriots and the Dolphins is much larger than the gap between the Dolphins and the Bills and the Jets, right? So I think you have kind of like 1, 2, and 3 very close together, and the Patriots not really on that level. I could see them definitely losing this division with the Bills and Jets fighting for first place. But I expect all 3 of those teams to, make it to the postseason most likely. So that'll be fun to watch. Let me know who you guys got in the comments. Who do you got pulling away in the AFC East? And of course, every single year I do my NFL strength of schedule. The NFL, and Bill knows this, but the NFL every single year, it gives you the strength of schedule. And they base it based off the opponent's win-loss record last season. But as we know, there's about 45 to 65% turnover rate year to year. So it's a very sloppy and stupid way to look at it. What we should be looking at is how far they're traveling, how many away games, what kind of coach are they playing. Andy Reid's very good in September. There's all these things that you want to factor in. Did you go out of the country? Are you going out of the country and not getting a bye week when you get back? So I've been working on this for like 2 months, and it's about ready. So once I get that, I'll go through the NFL schedule as that's released, and then we'll do our division predictions and all of that stuff ahead. But I can't really do my division predictions without putting the strength of schedule, for what it's worth, putting that variable in, because let's say, just like I said, the Bills and Jets are going to be neck and neck this year. But let's say the Jets, from what I can see with my strength of schedule, let's say the Jets, their strength of schedule is a 10 out of 10 and Buffalo's a 6 out of 10. I might still feel that the Jets are the better team, but take the Bills to win the division based on that. So if you've already looked at a strength of schedule, you can keep it as a reference, but really it's pretty useless. There's really nothing about it that, yes, you got the playoff teams that were playoff teams last year are still going to be good this year, but that's about as far as it goes. Like, for the most part, if the Jets won 5 games last season, is that a way of really judging how good the Jets are? Are they a 5-win team when Rodgers is healthy? No. So I'm excited for this. And just real quick, covering everything that we went through, the games that were released already, and I'm going to see if any other games have been released. I'm going to look at X or Twitter, whatever you guys call it, and see real quick. I'm just going to search NFL leaks. NFL leaks. All right. Okay, so I'm just looking at some of the top ones here. Okay. Here's one. Raiders at Bengals week 9. Week 9, we have the Raiders at Bengals. Okay. This is kind of a rando. And this is kind of a rando one to leak. But it's going to be at Paycor Stadium, and that is a random leak. Okay, Raiders Bengals. I don't even know what to say about it. It's going to be a 4:25 game, and yeah. Ooh, here's another one. This one's a little more exciting. Okay, week 8. So we just gave you week 9. Look at this, week 8. Philadelphia Eagles at the Bengals. That is being leaked right now. That is going to be a 4:25 game as well. Man, this game's got to be flexed to Sunday Night Football. I don't know what game they have on for Sunday Night Football, but Eagles-Bengals, that should be a primetime game. All right, they're saying Jaguars-Dolphins week 1. This is interesting. I'm wondering how credible this person is. All right, no, this guy, I don't think this guy would... if he was bullshitting, he wouldn't have this many followers. All right, so he does have a Google Doc. Oh, this is the guy I followed last year. Oh, Brandon Perna follows him too. All right, so here's what we know. All right, I got his whole spreadsheet open. Okay, wow. All right, so this is the 2024 schedule. All right, so they're saying week 1 is going to be, for Pittsburgh, it's going to be at Atlanta. So we talked about that earlier, but it says week 2 is going to be at Denver. Okay. So I thought Denver would be the week 1 game, but it is going to be very close. And they're saying the Broncos will open up the season at Seattle. They did that 2 years ago, and I went to it. I got the picture. I just developed it yesterday. Okay, so Denver opening the season on the road, and then their home opener. So I'm glad that the home opener will still be that Pittsburgh game. So we were kind of right about something. Okay, let's look at the Giants here. The Giants have only got one game leaked, and that is going to be at Carolina week 10, which will be November 10th. All right. I'm going to go division by division here. So we got the Broncos going to Seattle to play the Seahawks week 1. And then we got them at home against the Steelers week 2. Week 3 has not been announced, but week 4 is going to be the game at home against the Jets. So Seattle, Pittsburgh, and the Jets. I got to say, the Jets is a very tough game. Seattle is going to be tough. Pittsburgh is going to be tough. Like, this is not an easy start to the season by any means. And Nick said, this is good because I hate the Seahawks, and Bronco fans, we all hate the Seahawks. Bill said, Munich, baby. So Bill was already on top of it. All right, let's look at Kansas City. They're playing at home against Baltimore. And I'm gonna start a ticker here. No, it's too difficult. You guys are just gonna have to listen. All right, so the Kansas City Chiefs at home against the Baltimore Ravens week 1. And then week 2, they play the Cincinnati Bengals. Right? That's tough, man. That's tough. Both of these games are going to be very difficult. And then we also know week 7, they're playing at San Francisco. They are playing against the Raiders week 13, and they're not going to play the Steelers until week 17. So week 17, the Steelers and Chiefs will play. But for the Broncos, it'll be week 2. The Chargers have nothing leaked as of right now. Let's go to the AFC South. Tennessee will play the Jets week 2. Week 2, the New York Jets. This will be probably the home opener for the Tennessee Titans. Week 8, they will play the Detroit Lions. And then Jacksonville has much more games leaked. Week 1, at Miami. Jacksonville will go to Miami week 1. And then week 2, they'll have their home opener against the Cleveland Browns. So we already said Cleveland's playing Dallas week 1. Week 2, Cleveland's playing Jacksonville. Then we move down to week 6. This should be a fun game at the Chicago Bears. So you got Trevor Lawrence, first round overall pick against Caleb Williams, the most recent first overall pick. That's going to be a game that both are really going to want to win. And then week 7, right after that, you got the New England Patriots. Okay, so Chicago and New England back to back. The New England game will be at home. Chicago will be in Chicago. Week 11, this is exciting. The Detroit Lions. So you got Jaguars, Lions week 11. And that game is November 17th. So let's see really quick. When is Thanksgiving 2024? November 28th is going to be Thanksgiving this year. Okay, so it's not going to be Thanksgiving, but it's going to be about 10 days before Thanksgiving. So Detroit will be there. Then we know the Jags are playing the Raiders week 16. Okay. Indianapolis. Okay. Don't know what they're doing week 1, but they are playing the Green Bay Packers apparently week 2. It's weird because for Indy it says Green Bay, but for Green Bay, oh no, it does say Indy. Okay, so Colts Packers week 2. Colts Packers week 2. And then we know the Colts are playing the Detroit Lions week 12. So that's all we got for the AFC North. Okay. Now the AFC South. Moving on to the AFC North with the Steelers at Atlanta, I believe this is at Atlanta, at Denver. So 2 games in a row on the road, and then the Chiefs week 17. The Browns are playing Dallas and Jacksonville week 1 and week 2. That's a tough week 1 and week 2. Their rivals, the Bengals, TBD on week 1, but they are playing the Chiefs week 2. And then TBD on week 3. But we do know that the week 1 game for the Bengals is going to be at home. We just don't know who. We do know that their home opponents for this year are going to be Baltimore. We know it's not Baltimore because Baltimore is playing Kansas City. Cleveland, we know they're not playing Cleveland because Cleveland's playing Dallas. Pittsburgh, can't be Pittsburgh. They're playing Atlanta. Denver, it can't be Denver. They're playing Seattle. New England. Washington. And does Washington... Okay, so it's either Washington or New England. So week 1 for the Bengals is either Washington or New England. Honestly, not really sure. I don't think any of those games are super exciting by any means. But if it's a home game, then those are the only 2 options. So then we got the Baltimore Ravens playing Kansas City week 1. And then TBD, but we know it's a road game week 3. And Baltimore is playing the Broncos at some point, the Raiders, Buffalo, Philly, and Washington at home. And this is going to be away game week 3. So their away games consist of the Chargers, the Cowboys, Texans, Giants in Tampa. Wouldn't be surprised if that week 3 game is like the Dallas Cowboys or the Houston Texans. That'd be fun. All right, going into the AFC East with the New York Jets. And I think we leaked a couple of these earlier, but week 1 is going to be at San Francisco. Then week 2, they're playing the Tennessee Titans. Week 3, the New England Patriots. Week 4, the Denver Broncos. Week 5, the Minnesota Vikings. So we already have week 1 through 5 for the Jets. And a lot of these are rumors, but the rumors have been pretty true. The San Francisco game is going to be Monday night. And let's see. Unconfirmed or rumor likely. So these are all, what is a V? V or an A after team equals unconfirmed or rumor likely. Okay, so the Broncos is unconfirmed or a rumor likely. V equals home, A equals away. So Denver V means home game. Well, I guess, I don't know. Would it have 2 Vs? I'm trying to learn how to read this chart. I'll just continue. The New England Patriots are playing the Jets week 3. They're playing the Jaguars week 7. The Miami Dolphins are going to open up the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then they're going to be at home against the Buffalo Bills. So Jacksonville, Buffalo. I remember last year I went to the Broncos Dolphins game, and that was week 3. And I remember that was their season opener. So it's kind of like the opposite this year. They're going to play 2 home games in a row, and they won't go on the road likely till week 3. Then Buffalo playing Miami week 2, and Buffalo Detroit is going to be on December 15th, week 15. Let's move over to the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys are playing the Cleveland Browns week 1. And that's all we got for the Cowboys right now. The Giants are playing the Panthers week 10. And this game is going to be in Germany. The Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Packers week 1. That's the game in Brazil. And they are playing Monday night week 2. But we don't know who they're playing yet. Okay, so this is TBD. It is a Monday night game. I would imagine this is a home game because the Packers, who is playing the Eagles, they are being rewarded with a home game after Brazil. I think they would do the same thing for Philly. The Packers are playing at home against the Indianapolis Colts. So who would the Eagles be playing at home? Okay, well, of course, you got the Dallas Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders always available as an option. Being that the Eagles are playing the Packers week 1, I think it would almost have to be one of those teams. I'm trying to see Cleveland's playing Dallas and Jacksonville week 1 and week 2, so maybe not. Denver's playing Seattle and Pittsburgh. Honestly, when I look at this schedule, I'm seeing a theme that I've never seen before. Usually week 1 and week 18 is like 80% divisional games. I'm not seeing any divisional games. Kansas City is playing Baltimore and Cincinnati, not in the division. Seattle, Pittsburgh for Denver. Miami and Cleveland for Jacksonville. Pittsburgh's playing Atlanta in Denver. Cleveland plays Dallas. It's almost like everybody is not playing a single divisional team. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a couple that appear, but so far with all of the leaks, it looks totally different than what we're used to seeing typically for week 1 and week 2. So let's look at Philly's opponents that aren't in NFC or NFC East team. Okay, so taking out Dallas, Giants, Commanders, they're playing Atlanta, they're playing Carolina, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville. Okay, we know it's not Jacksonville because week 2, Jacksonville's playing Cleveland, so it's not them. We know it's not Pittsburgh because week 2, Denver plays Pittsburgh, so that leaves Cleveland, but they're playing Jacksonville week 2, not an option. Carolina remains available. Atlanta, they could possibly, right? I think Atlanta, where are you? Here you are, Atlanta. They're playing Pittsburgh week 1, so that could be week 2. It could be Eagles and Atlanta. So I guess that's where I'm going to put my money. Week 2 is probably going to be Monday Night Football, Eagles and Falcons. That makes sense to me. And you got to remember, the Falcons are going to get much more primetime games because of the fact that Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. Now, you might be wondering, what are the Christmas games looking like? From right now, we know that Christmas is going to be, I'm seeing Packers, Detroit for Christmas. But there's multiple reasons this could be red. Oh, no, that's just Thursday Night Football. So Green Bay playing Detroit week 14, that's going to be on Thursday Night Football. Kyle texted, I heard this, gathering people named this weekend. I was invited. I got like 3 people that sent me that on X, and they were like, you should go. And I'm like, dude, I would love to if I lived around there, but I'm not flying across the country. But maybe I should. It's something I would do. I just haven't considered it hard enough. I have so many things on my plate right now. But those are, if I had to take my guess, Philly is going to be playing Monday Night Football against Atlanta. Okay, and then the Commanders have been really keeping their schedule close to their hands, not letting anybody get an eye on it. Not a single release for the Commanders. Now, week 8, they're playing the Bengals. Eagles and Bengals are playing week 8, and that's going to be a 4:00 game, 4:05 or 4:25. Actually, it's going to be a 1:00 game. Okay. So that's the NFC East. Going to the NFC North, we said that for the Bears, we'll start there. We said that it was going to be Jaguars, right? Week 6. So we can take the Jags off of the unknowns. the Bears don't have a week 1 game jotted down. And normally I would say it's going to be the Packers on Sunday Night Football. The Packers are playing the Eagles. It can't be the Detroit Lions because the Lions are playing the Rams. And guys, this is really exciting. Jared Goff facing his former team, 2 teams that are really headed in the right direction, playing week 1. And this is going to be Sunday Night Football. Lions, Rams on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be awesome. Good job, NFL. Dude, I'm so freaking pumped for this. Okay, so for the Bears week 1, they're not playing the Lions. They're not playing the Packers. Minnesota could be an option. I'm not sure who it's going to be. I'm just speculating, but here we go to week 13, and the Bears are playing Detroit week 13. That's going to be on December 1st. And, oh, no, that's going to be a Thanksgiving game. Thanksgiving is going to be Detroit in Chicago. So who's it going to be for the Dallas Cowboys? It could be, if I had to guess, it might be Houston. Dallas and Houston. That would be wouldn't that be a great doubleheader? The Lions, Bears, and then the Texans and Cowboys. That'd be awesome. But then week 16, they're playing the Lions again. So they play week 13, and then 3 weeks later, they're playing the Lions again, but this time at home. And then they will finish their season on the road against the Packers. So the Chicago Bears, 4 games have been released. Now, the Lions have a shit ton of games released. If you have a pen and paper, you could probably put a lot of this together and almost come up with their whole entire schedule. Week 1, they're playing the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Going to be an amazing game. Okay. Week 2, they're playing the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay and Detroit had an amazing playoff game. This is going to be a home game. So they're playing at home back-to-back weeks. You got the Rams and the Buccaneers. Week 3 is unknown. We'll get back to that. Week 4, they're playing the Seattle Seahawks. This is another home game, and this one's actually on Monday Night Football. So week 4, Monday Night Football, is going to be Lions Seahawks. Awesome. Then you got 2 blanks for week 5, week 6, unknown. Then week 7, they're playing Minnesota in Minnesota. Then they're playing Tennessee at home. Then you got 2 more weeks of unknowns. Then week 11, you got the Jaguars. Week 12, you got the Colts on the road. Week 13, you have Thanksgiving football with the Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions. Then week 14, you have Thursday Night Football. So they're playing 2 Thursdays in a row. Thanksgiving, and then the Thursday after that, Green Bay and Detroit are playing on Thursday Night Football. Week 15, so they'll have 10 days to get ready for week 15 since they're playing on Thursday. And keep in mind, most of the time when you play on Thursday, you haven't had a lot of time to prep. But since they're playing on Thanksgiving, really they're going to have an entire week to get ready for this Thursday, which means they're going to have 10 days to get ready for Buffalo week 15. So Chicago's the only team that they're going to have to get ready on a short week for. Green Bay is not in that situation, right? Green Bay doesn't play on Thanksgiving this year from what's been leaked. That means that Detroit is going to kind of be a little bit ahead of the curve on Green Bay when they meet the following week. And then also a 10-day break to play Buffalo week 15. So Detroit, if you're looking at this schedule, you're thinking, wow, the Packers and Buffalo, these are a tough couple games, but they're going to have an advantage over both teams with the amount of time they have to prepare. And then they play the Chicago Bears again, week 16. And then they play the Minnesota Vikings week 18. So most of the games are pretty much on this list that you can see. So let's see. The Rams, they're playing week 1. Tampa, week 2. So the Jacksonville game, the Indianapolis game. Honestly, there's only 6 games that are unknown for Detroit. Actually, let me show you guys my screen. Let me show you guys what my screen looks like. All right. So here you go. So here we are on Detroit. So we got the Rams, Tampa, Seattle, Minnesota, Tennessee. Up here you can see Thanksgiving is this font here. Monday night or Thursday night football is red. So let's move on to Minnesota. All we know is that the Detroit Lions are going to be playing the Vikings week 7. So, and that's a divisional game. So not a ton of information there. Atlanta, Pittsburgh, week 1. That's all we got there. Carolina, as we said, they're playing the Giants on week 10, and that's going to be a game in Germany. And Crafty said over under on how many snaps Rodgers lasts this season. Over under on how many I'm gonna say all of them. I'm gonna say all of them. I don't think he gets hurt again. I hope he doesn't. Tampa Bay, Detroit, that's all we got. And then here, Seattle's probably the one we know the most of in the NFC West. Seattle, they're playing Denver week 1, just like 2 years ago. And then TBD, but it will be an away game, and then unknown, and then the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. So far, let me see if I can zoom out here. Nope. So far, this is what it's looking like. Let me refresh this and see if anything's changed. All right. So it looks like nothing's changed right now. I'll leave this up here for a second so you guys can take a look at it. But yeah, this is pretty good info coming, a little bit early before the schedule is officially leaked. But, a couple of these you can kind of fill in the blanks. Crafty says the only way Rodgers doesn't get hurt is if he gets picked for vice president. That is insane. And then I don't know what this is. 1-1. Oh, these are telling you how many games have been leaked. So the Chiefs have 4 games leaked. The Jaguars have the most. They have 5 games that have leaked. Once again, Dolphins, Browns, Bears, New England. So they're playing Detroit on the road. They have quite a few home games that aren't announced. If you look at this, they got 1, 2, 3, 4 of their 5 games on the road. So a bunch of these games that haven't been leaked outside of the division, you got the Jets. The Jets-Jags game will be a pretty good one. You got Green Bay, and they're playing Green Bay in Jacksonville. So my family in Jacksonville that are Packer fans are definitely going to be at that game. And then the Minnesota Vikings where was that? Minnesota Vikings. Oh yeah, Minnesota Vikings are another one of those games that could be up here in the top 4. But yeah, this is what we got so far. And as soon as I know anything else, I'll definitely be posting it. There's been 18 leaks out of 272 total games. That's 6.6% of the games that are leaked. So I'll probably give this a little bit of time, and then I'll jump on tomorrow. What I'm going to do is tomorrow I'm going to do the schedule release live, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on here an hour before the schedule is released, and I'm going to give you the latest information. And then when the schedule gets released live on air, we can fact check everything and see, because it's been super accurate lately. So that's just, I think, a fun way to do it is I'll give you everything I got, but right before it gets announced, and then we'll be able to look at it live together. Bill said Crafty has had an interview with Tucker Carlson on X today, and it was pretty good. That subject, of course, came up. That's Goodell's way of saying I'll teach you how to get. Yeah, that schedule that there's been a lot of stuff come out. You see, you got Cuomo coming out saying that ivermectin was the boogeyman. All this stuff. So I won't get into that whole world, but maybe at another time in another place. But yeah, so tomorrow, definitely, if you guys are enjoying this, like I'm going to be going live on Twitter tomorrow or X and doing the whole thing. So thank you guys for tuning in today. You can follow me always at NFL with Kyle on Twitter. If you can, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps. I used to be able to do this and get a thumbs up. What happened? Yeah, there it is. If you could give this video a like, it helps our algorithm out a lot. This is our biggest crowd that we've ever had on the Only Football Podcast for a weekly episode. We have 182 people live right now watching us. So if you're one of those people watching, I just want to say thank you. I'm a Denver Broncos fan, and I run this podcast with my buddy Rick, and he's a huge Bears fan, and we cover our teams pretty closely, pretty passionately, but we also cover the NFL in general. So if you're looking for a place to call home, we're a community that makes watching football even more fun because we're all fanatics of our teams and we get it. We know what it's like to be delusional and to get hope and to feel stupid for having hope. And it's a fun ride, and we go on it together. So definitely join us if that sounds like fun to you. And you can follow me at NFL with Kyle. Please like and comment and share this podcast with your friends. But if you just don't want to do that, I just want to say thanks for being here anyway. You guys have been awesome. I'm gonna let it breathe for a second. If you have any comments, I'll give it a minute since I know I'm like 2 minutes ahead, but we'll see if there's any comments that pop up here. And if not, we'll call it a night. Roger should write a book called How to Make $70 Million for 2 minutes of Work. Yikes. Shots fired. And Bill with a $2 super. Thanks for the show, Kyle. Shout out to KC, Crafty, and Nick. Thank you, Bill. Bill's been awesome with the donations. Thank you, Bill. And we really appreciate you donating to our channel. So appreciate that. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow, and I'll be giving you the rest of this Google Doc spreadsheet right before it goes live. But thank you guys for being in here, and I will see you guys tomorrow. You're beautiful people. Thank you for watching. See ya.